Welcome to the May 2nd, 2024 Fairport Historic Preservation meeting. My name is Kara Myers, and if my fellow commissioners would please introduce themselves for roll call purposes.
Kyle Wopser.
Laura DiCaprio.
Doris Davis Fritsch.
David Stites.
So this evening we'll start with the approving and review of the meeting minutes. Does everyone have them in front of them? Are there any comments? You weren't there.
Kara, I did make the change that you sent me.
Okay.
So Laura's last name is spelled appropriately further down in the minutes.
Right.
And I also updated the title to be minutes and decision grid before I had left out the minutes part, which is a little bit critical, and just had decision grid. So since sending it to the board, those are the changes that were made.
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the March 7th, 2024 meeting?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
Now, do we need to do abstaining? Anyone abstaining? David Stites? Any opposed? The motion passes. So I was trying to get my thoughts organized about we have two really pretty broad discussions that we have on the agenda for this evening. The first is the National Register discussion for the Historic District. And the second is the overview of the New York State Preservation Conference and just people, around the table if they'd like to debrief and share some of the things they learned. It was really a terrific conference. I'm so pleased that, we were all able to be there. So starting with the National Register discussion, Jill has updated our survey map with all of the designated properties. Maybe there's one that is not.
I think there might be one that isn't on there, and I have not had the chance to update the file. So this is what we have for now.
I don't know if folks would like to pull out their maps of that area. So the materials that we have tonight, I think that will help with our discussion were the survey maps, let's see. Jill also provided us with some information, the Certification of Local Historic Districts PDF from Virginia Bartos. And we also have, from a prior meeting, the New York State and National Register of Historic Places, the help for the nomination process. So one of the first things I thought we could start out with, Doris and Jill and I met with Virginia Bartos with a Zoom meeting in early April. And what we had hoped to do was to get a little clarity from her about the process, about how we were approaching it, the boundaries of the district. There's multiple potential districts, in the village. How do you deal with that in a small place? Do you do one? Do you do many? We had a conversation about, you could do the whole village, and what would that mean, and how complicated would that be? So I thought it was a terrific meeting, and I'm just going to, and we can all provide input, and Jill, I hope you feel comfortable to join in as well. But one of the the starting points of the clarity for me is that there's 3 different ways that you can do a district. So it's the National Register district. You can do the certification of a local historic district, and then you can do a locally designated district. And does everyone know the difference between the 3 of those? I know that I met with Laura, we talked about it. So what she has just shared with us is that there's, and it's kind of in this first part of this certification. So a historic district listed on the National Register of Historic Places is different than the locally local certification, and that local certification, and this is something that CLGs can do. Local certification doesn't require action by the State Review Board for historic preservation. It doesn't require mailings to property owners, public meetings, regulated comment periods. And even though you don't have all of that, you still have access to the benefits of tax credits and things like that, so property owners do. Virginia really strongly suggested going the National Register route. It isn't that much less work. It isn't that much more work. We're going to communicate to our community anyway, so we're not going to pass over that step. And right now, we're a certified local government, but if any time in the future we were not a CLG, you lose that historic district. You know that it no longer exists. So, and we've already had the discussion about doing a village locally designated historic district, and we're not following through with that at this time. So anyway, just kind of looking at all the different options, we kind of felt like the National Register Historic District would be best. And I didn't know if Jill, Doris, if you wanted to add anything to that.
Just only care that I agree with that synopsis. We've always been able to do local districts. It's part of our law, but the National Register District has no downside. It's just the benefits the residents with the ability to apply for the tax credits. I think more people will benefit from that and faster and be very optimistic and positive about it than if we tried to do the others. And I guess you said if the second one was a CLG district, doesn't take national approval, but it state approval, right? Something like that. But again, we are a CLG commission, and if for some reason 10 years, 20 years down the line that we are no longer a CLG commission or village, that we would, all the benefits of that district designation would be lost. So if we're going to do the work, I think we should just do the National Register.
What did you say was faster?
Pardon?
You said something about something being faster.
No, I don't think it's any faster. And I think in terms of if we as a commission are saying we want to be more involved in the community, we want the community to view historic preservation differently. My perspective with the certified local district is that it's a little bit sneaky. When you're doing the National Register, you're doing outreach, you're having conversations with people, you're educating them, you're telling them about the benefits of. You're doing, I would say, almost the same process. We would do the same process because we want to get out there and talk to people about it. So it really doesn't make any sense for us to do the certified local district when we're doing all the work for a National Register.
The CLG district might take less time because there's less approvals. But as far as, again, as Jill says, we want to do this outreach, we want to have a positive message out there about, so we would be doing community meetings, we would want to do those letters that aren't required, but we want, so it's not that much less work. And it might be faster just because of the approvals. But that's,
Yeah, if you look at page 2 of this PDF that Virginia provided, this whole list of what you had to do, you know, the letter requesting, narrative description, contributing, non-contributing, it's really a very similar process. So as to what Doris is saying, you know, and it's just the timeline really of the approval process and going through the different steps. But I thought it was important, you know, for us to get together as a full commission and say, how do you feel about this? You know, do you agree, disagree, have any comments? Do we feel that the National Register route is the way to go?
We're doing the work anyway.
Yeah. So I did also, I don't know, there's just so much to think about with this. And one of the things that we had talked about with Virginia is, you know, the idea that we have potentially a number of districts in the community, and how do you handle that? You know, do you kind of have a plan in place? Do you start with one? You know, how do we move forward with this? You know, might there be concerns within the community that why, you know, was this area chosen because there are some real benefits that come with it, as opposed to the other? And I thought it was just good to have a little bit of a conversation about how we're planning to proceed, that we're aware that there are, that the full village is just an important place to us, and so how we're moving forward with that.
I would like to be intentional in terms of how we do it. If we can have Virginia be part of the process, but to think about potential, like, multiple areas and think about it in terms of some kind of extended timeline and why we would choose different areas as opposed to just jumping in and picking one larger area. Just more intentionality is what I'm looking for.
Did you want to say something, Doris?
I think, for instance, in the area that we have potential, we have looked at originally, I think we have to, I think when we write that application, the initial application, it'll outline the reasons. It'll also outline how many properties and how they're rated. I think, we have a lot of a concentration of properties in the area that we've selected that are rated capable or possible local designations there. The integrity is very high, and many of them are already designated. So if we could do an initial another neighborhood and do that quick analysis of, you know, okay, we're going to do Dewey Miles, you know, that whole area that's in the later developments, and, you know, how many properties within that area are highly have integrity. You know, does the ranch house still look like a ranch? You know, how many changes have happened in that neighborhood? And I think we can do a quick analysis, you know, draw out some other areas and do a quick analysis of, you know, how many houses really are eligible for local designation, are highly have integrity, are in the original condition and well-maintained and all. I think we can do a quick analysis of that because it's all outlined in that survey, and just my impression of, say, the area of Dewey Miles, et cetera, the later development, the houses are contributing to the neighborhood, but maybe not, there may not be that many houses that are really, there are not that many concentrated houses. I'm not talking wells here, excuse me. There's not a concentration of houses that have high integrity in some of those other areas. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't be done, but just means that we prioritize the area that has that, a lot of high integrity homes, good history, and we've already designated many of them because of that. So I don't think it'll be hard to kind of lay out other areas that we might want to do.
So you talk about the area that you had been talking about, and I was not at the last meeting. And for anyone watching, I asked Jill to put the map up. So could you more specifically talk about sort of what area we are considering?
And just before we do that, there was one other item that I think kind of goes along with, you know, what you were saying, Doris. And at the preservation conference, one of the things that they have a whole list. There's just so many ideas. The whiteboard with all the ideas. It was, but one of the things that they suggested that you can get funding for, you know, for us as a Historic Preservation Commission, I guess through CLG, is doing a preservation plan for the village using a consultant. So, you know, we don't want to hold this back. We can still move forward with honing in on this specific district, but start, you know, really considering some long-term planning and having someone who can help and guide us in that. So to your point, David, we had, I don't think it's changed from when we were talking about it initially. It would, the area is it would be Woodlawn Avenue, both sides of the street. It would go up, and this is general because we'd have to be looking at a map, but, and actually I think we walked the street together, didn't we? So that same area that we had looked at, Woodlawn, then going west on West Avenue, almost to the end of the street, both sides of the street, coming back all the way down West Avenue. We'll have to talk about that a little bit, but then going around Perrin Street. We had talked about whether or not it then moves to West Church Street, comes around the corner going east, and then if it goes up, then South Main Street, and includes the designated church and other designated structures there. Also, then on the south side of West Church Street, it would, starting with, is it 141 West Church Street, and going down the south side of West Church Street up to South Avenue. Don't hold me to the exact buildings, because I'm just trying to give you an idea of the area. Does that sound right? Does everyone see where we're, yeah?
One of the reasons that we would like, and one of the reasons we like Virginia to visit with us and take a tour is to help us hone in that area with her recommendations. And, you know, we've identified an area that has common history, common architecture, and those are the two key things for a National Register. But she may say, you know, the integrity of the houses from here to here, you know, is not as high as the other area, and want to bring it smaller. Or she may say, yes, absolutely, built in the same era, sharing the same history. Just, you know, include it.
she seemed really on board with it when we were on the phone. I mean, she's familiar enough with this area, and we've all talked about this, and I guess are familiar with this now, so it would be, getting her back here before she retires. Unfortunately, she's retiring at the end of May. She'd be available in May for us.
Yeah.
So what she's asked us to do, if we want to keep moving forward with this, is she would like to have us provide a map with a justification of the boundaries. We'll send it to her, and then she would meet with us in May, and I think that's the point when she would provide us with comments. If she can't come and meet with us, she would just do comments from our written justification and her familiarity with that. But if we can move fairly quickly along, if folks are in agreement here, then we would be able to capture her comments before she leaves. Now, that being said, and I don't have my notes right in front of me, but, I believe there's already someone who will be taking her position who is very well qualified. So it'll be great to have Virginia's input. We'll also have a very qualified support staff after she leaves even. Any comments? So really, the process after that, this really is a terrific help. So we can just look through that and know what we're going to be doing next. But the first thing, would we want to see just create a map, put our outlines on it. I know you have very good justifications for this area. You've talked through it, and you've got a lot of the research done on many of these houses. So if we could move quickly along with that, and I don't know if there's volunteers or if we kind of want to do this as a group, the justification aspect of it. So map justification, I think we could turn that around fairly quickly, don't you? To get it to Virginia, and then she can tell us if that's enough. Right.
I don't think the initial introduction to Virginia needs to be extensive. For instance, right out of our survey, there was a paragraph about that time period we're talking about, 1850 to the turn of the century, and what was going on in Fairport, and that's the shared history for this area. So that part, I think, is a cut and paste. What were you saying, the other thing that we need? Besides the history part?
We have to have a map.
Architectural?
Yep, and so if you guys can draw those boundaries on one of your maps, I can do the GIS map for it.
I mean, honestly, I would think that she would be fine if we made this a little bigger, taking a marker, right?
But it doesn't
Well,
take
she's
that
got
long.
that map because she's got
Yeah.
our survey, so I think we need to simplify it a little bit, but, are you saying you'll do the map? Yeah. All right. I wonder, just,
I can do the map.
just in an overview, again, I think if we can talk about, how many houses in the area we've selected are already designated, we can, if we need to, well, I don't think we should do it house by house, but I think we could talk about numbers that are here, the numbers that are highly, just quick observation from the map. So she looks at it and says, yes, there's 20 homes in that area that they're suggesting that are highly designatable. So maybe that overview, first the history part from the survey, maybe that overview of why this area can just talk about the integrity and the general architecture in that area. You wanted me to take a crack at it?
Do you want to do that? I was going to say, do you want to create a little working group, or do you want to just take a first crack? And I can draw the outlines of, I think we all, unless you want to look at it more closely about where the outlines were, I can draw that little outline and get it to Jill. And then we can share it and say, oh, I didn't think that house was going to be in there or whatever. People can look at it before we send it to her.
Do you want to know, I mean, we need to turn, in order to have Virginia come this month, we need to turn that around pretty quickly. And would you want to just, I don't know when she might be able to come. I wonder if we should start looking at the calendar and with her and see and pinpoint some time.
I guess I encourage the commission not to be as concerned about having Virginia come. I think we can get her the map and she can make the decision if she can find time, but we're going to be working with a different staff member going forward for this process, so I don't think it's as critical to have Virginia. Obviously, we want her comments because she does know Fairport very well.
Right.
But as far as making the trip out, we might be better served by having that new staff member because they're going to go to bat for us when it comes to go before the state board, et cetera.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. Let's do it.
I mean, I can get this to Jill Monday or Tuesday. Okay. Yeah, and this is such a first step, just her giving feedback on it, so. I'm mostly curious what she'll think about kind of the more commercial area on South Main Street and little areas where we've captured certain homes, like on West Church Street, and then it comes back around. But she seemed to think that it was fine not having this really nice straight boundary. You just, it is what it is, you know? So. David, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Kara, did she outline, did she give you a cover letter with this that tells you what we need in this application? Were you referring to a cover letter that said a paragraph about this, a paragraph about that? Did she give you some sort of cover letter that kind of guided, we should use for guidance? Okay, well, I'll look at, this is just, right,
Government version.
okay.
And then I believe this, I mean, this is where
Okay.
you get a lot of the information and just going online. The other thing, I'm just yelling, so I'm hoping that can just catch it. We apply through the CRIS system. We need to get a name for the district. Yeah. Oh, this, it's all gonna fall apart because we can't think of a name for the district. Oh, no. The other thing is you can apply to the CLG to actually do the nomination for us, which she highly recommended. And I believe, Jill, that if we're going to go after that funding, it has to be by the end of May.
Correct.
So that will be another project that maybe we'll need some help for. I don't know how complicated it is or, what kind of background information they need.
I believe I did send out the application. I can look for it again and resend it from Francis Stern.
You sent it to me?
I believe I did. It's all online.
Okay.
One of the things we will have to do, and I emailed Brockport and never heard back from them, is get an idea of how much it may cost to have a consultant do something like this. So I can email Brockport again and give them a call on Monday. If we can get numbers like that, then we know what to ask for, because right now I don't even have any idea how much money to ask for. So if we can get those numbers and quickly fill that out, maybe we can get it in by the end of the month. I mean, it's going to be close.
Okay, so, well, I guess then I'll go online and look at the CLG grant application. And then once we see how much information we can see if we need to split up some work or what we need to do. Does that sound like a plan?
So the first step of getting the map, the first step of doing this map and then the written, I guess, proof of why we want to do this area that's going to Virginia, that's not part of this whole grant process. This is just like the first step of saying, allow us to apply. Like, I don't understand the difference between this and then what the consultant would do.
Actually, write, the consultant would actually write.
Okay.
Application,
So what we have to do is pretty simple then. We could just put bullet points together for,
couple paragraphs.
okay, perfect. So,
Yeah,
okay,
It's just that initial and application.
gotcha.
oh, you know, remember we were talking about like, oh, should we go around this corner, should we include these?
Okay.
That's kind of what that was for, and that's why I don't wanna spend too much time.
We shouldn't go
No.
crazy on it then, because I was thinking that first part would be a heavy lift, but it doesn't sound like it is. So that makes it a lot easier. Okay. Yeah, but I'm happy to help if you put together a template and you want me to help look at it or something, I can help. Yeah.
I know, wait, that was. She can edit, massage.
Oh, edit. I prefer editing to the initial writing. You are correct. Is there anything else that we need to talk about with this? Because it would be exciting to get things moving. Can you think of anything else we need to discuss, Jill, about this?
No, I'm searching for the email right now so I can resend it.
Well, don't worry, I can find it.
Okay.
It's just, there's been a lot of emails lately, in the last few months.
Just thinking about the name, because that's the fun part. Over the next couple of weeks, we could all think about ideas of how it should be named, maybe. Because the Potter district was obvious, right? So I think maybe if we just try to think of some strategies of how we might want to name this area, that could spark ideas. But I think it's fun.
Looking at the history of it and,
The title of the paragraph that I was suggesting we cut and paste, maybe that title is the name of the district. I don't remember, it was something about, yeah, 1950s era, railroad, or industrialization, or something like that, maybe that's, maybe rather than streets. we
yeah.
justify it with history.
Well, there was that kind of that cool agricultural aspect to it as well, right, early on. That would be fun. All right. Well, then we have a plan. So the New York State Preservation Conference, I had already said I thought it was terrific. There were so many ideas, and I think we were really fortunate actually to get the scholarships and be required to go to the first day, because it's the first time I've ever been to one of these conferences, and it literally was focused on exactly what we do. Yeah.
I think you've been before, but it was way before COVID. But as you said, the Monday session was specifically for us.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was really enlightening.
I was impressed. It was good. So I don't know if how you want to go about this and what would be best, because I think I was thinking it was going to be Laura and Chuck weren't able to be there. So maybe not so much like informing you, maybe getting you some more of the materials. I can send you the email that the conference organizer sent to us if you wanted to look through the PowerPoints. And they also had this really cool thing. I don't know if, Jill, you can get to my email that I forwarded you from the conference, but they have a toolkit. I barely scratched the surface with that, but they just have a ton. Have anyone else looked at that? The
There's
email
a lot of information. I was able to download all of it, so I guess it's up to you guys if you want me to throw all of that in a OneDrive file, or if you want me to send the email, forward the email, I can do both.
Both, I would say.
Okay.
But did all of you get that email from the conference organizers? Because it didn't come to me. The only reason I saw it is because someone responded to all. And I looked and yeah, I searched, could not find one, I could not find the one that went to me. I don't know why. I could find my name in it, but. That happens. Yeah. When people, I don't know. Oh, yeah, with this respond all.
More people respond, but
Yeah.
buried the original one gets.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Point where you can't find it. It's happened multiple times to me.
So it sounds like Jill will send you that because it's really a lot of fun stuff. So I don't know if you want to just kind of pass this around and do some takeaways that maybe, like you were first on the agenda to speak here. But I was just thinking, like really like fun ideas or something. If you want to think about it, I'll just put it out here. Does anyone?
Well, yes, there were a ton of great materials that we got to take away. I personally enjoyed the conversations and hearing the issues, concerns, how other commissions around the state deal with things, and sort of their process moving through things and talking about applications they've received and how they've talked about it. And then I guess I did also enjoy the field trip. Day was also super fun. Got to go out to Rochester Colonial and see how wood windows and doors are made. And it was very cool. It was a great opportunity to be able to do that.
I don't really have anything. A lot of reading material.
I have a question. Since you said you sat with some of the Pittsford members, do you think they would ever be open to meeting with us to have further brainstorms or chats or anything? They seem.
I'm sure they would, and actually I have one of my notes is we could go and sit in on one of their meetings and see how they organize it and handle it. So they have, what did they say, 3 to 18 CFAs per meeting.
Well, and the reason they do that is because their entire municipality is in a district.
Right.
And I'm not sure that's the best way to handle review of properties. I think what we're doing is effective, and I think you guys do a really good job of helping applicants through improvements to their properties. I think I understand what Pittsford's doing, but it's another layer of approvals that are necessary to maintain your structure, which doesn't always benefit the municipality if it becomes burdensome to that property owner.
So maybe we're a little bit of a different animal.
I think in terms of how we operate, we have a lot of similarities with the town of Penfield. They have gone a little bit farther than we have, and they've created actual districts. So their C of A process is a little bit larger and different than ours, but they handle it in a similar fashion. So, and of course, we did meet last year with, we had the joint preservation training with the town of Penfield and the town of Brighton. And so perhaps we can get together one of those groups again.
That'd be great. And I just have in my notes here, again, there was just so many resources, probably more than we'll ever read in a year, but there also was a messaging guide for local preservation programs. It's a guidebook that you can find online. Just trying to look through my notes to see if there was anything else. Oh, I know one thing that was kind of fun is, and I don't know if we would ever do it in Fairport, but they have for their historic district, having street signs for their historic district. So the streets, maybe that's just more of an urban thing, but if your street was part of a historic district, it would have the little historic district, the street. I thought that was kind of a feel-good thing. May Historic Preservation Month, they have lists and lists of things like family, kid-oriented, just all kinds of things like that. If we can work, outside of this meeting and come up with an idea or two that we could turn around really quickly. And I wanted to thank you, Jill, for sending out the little, the thank you. That was very nice, and we appreciate you very much. And having that logo, what could we do with it? I know you have plans.
So one of the other things that I did is I wrote a quick preservation news article so that we could use that. The National Trust put out a lot of marketing materials, and so I pulled from that. And the National Trust has a lot of information on their website. In fact, on May 1st, they released the list of the 11 most endangered properties. So I encourage everyone to check out the National Trust website. They have a lot of good information, a lot of stories. And I think we've discussed in the past that we're not only saving structures, but preserving stories. So that's really the theme for Preservation Month in 2024.
Did you have anything that you wanted to, any
Sure.
of interest?
I found the mock sessions, I don't know what you want to call it, very interesting. And coming away from that, I realized how aggressive some of these other communities can be. And I appreciate how we're a little bit more, a little bit more collaborative with the residents and are willing to work with them. But with that said, I also, maybe it's because I'm an architect, I appreciate the need for standards and guidelines and giving people kind of a path for, and also us a guideline for reviewing properties. And I also found the legality portion interesting, when people sort of try to skirt the law, or they would do something purposely wrong, knowing that they'd only get a slap on the wrist later. And to your point, Jill, about preserving stories and memories and buildings, that's pretty much what this one whole session was about, was the importance of historic preservation, and people want to move into Fairport because we have done such a great job in preserving the history of Fairport. And sometimes I feel like we get maybe a little bit of a bad rap, because the reason people want to be here is because of us, but then they don't want to deal with us. One, it's their property, and maybe there's ways to be a little bit more welcoming or collaborative, I don't know, being viewed as a key component of the village. So
I think you guys have done a lot of good work over the last couple of years to rebrand, and I think people are appreciative of what happens, and we get nothing but really good feedback when applicants come before the Historic Preservation Commission, whether it be in the workshop format or for an actual meeting. So I commend you guys, you've done a really good job. And part of historic preservation is that economic development side of things. And just like you said, Kyle, people like Fairport because of the buildings. And so if you think of all those historic buildings, if they were gone, of the, several properties that have been designated local landmarks, if they were gone, we wouldn't be Fairport anymore. And so you guys do the secret work that is so important.
I felt very energized afterwards.
Yeah.
It was
It
was a good session.
It was good, and I had forgotten about these, so Laura, the guidelines, they kind of went through all of these, and I feel like it was also, maybe it was part of this PowerPoint, but then they had this kind of the little cheat sheet with it just, bullet points. So it was just really, I thought it was very well done. So you'll send that out to maybe Chuck and Laura, because the rest of us have it. We also have.
I sent it to everyone.
Oh, you did? Okay. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, and so we all have memberships now to the National Alliance. So we all. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Because I have one for the entire village, But now that if you guys have them separate, I guess if they have a webinar that you don't want to have a viewing party here, which we haven't done in a while, you can watch it in front of your own computer. But the village does have its own membership. And I found it incredibly beneficial. We've watched several webinars, and I feel much more educated about preservation because of the NAPC. I'm thrilled. Landmark Society is the one that mentioned it, if you recall, when we had the meeting in Penfield, and it's been the best use of my budget money so far.
I agree. And I think what we can do too is if we get newsletters, I think there's going to be some other supplemental information that gets sent. We can just send it on to the two of you who just weren't able to attend that day. Just share the information. So, is that it for the conference? Any other thoughts? So just going through, are there any other reports from people? We have the other, like the designations, the individual we already talked about. Oh, so for special events, do we want to try and do a quick brainstorm if there's something that we can just push out that's maybe family-oriented, or do we just have enough on our plates? And we can just ride on Jill's coattails for the marketing she's sending out.
We talked about doing the farmer's market, we just don't have date.
We did, and I actually, I spoke with Ally Lawrence today, and she said that there is always space available between May and June, and then things fill up for July and August, and then space is available again in September. And I thought that we had discussed the potential of having a spot in the fall. So perhaps when she finishes the schedule, I can connect with her and get us a booth for September.
If you want to target September, maybe we should all just check our calendars just to see if we're in town.
What do people think about the Historic Preservation Month? Does anyone have the bandwidth? Do we have the bandwidth to try and do anything? It's already the 2nd, it's too late. I feel a little bit that way. I mean, there's so many cool ideas, but
I think what we're working on is very important. And we can, once we get a basic go-ahead from Virginia, we can start talking about it, you know?
so this community outreach and engagement, these flyers that we picked up, did you pick these up too?
Yeah.
So I've got an extra set, so I'm just going to give these to you, Laura, but you know, everything, I mean, we could work full-time at this for sure. But this is the general one, and this is the sheet that has all the specific ideas, and it gets you really excited. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then it's just time. But you'll like this.
Are we under updates now?
Yeah, I kind of went into updates, and
Okay.
then I swung back.
So, here.
Oh,
The first thing on the updates list is designations, individual and district, and we, of course, talked quite a bit about the idea of doing our national registered district. There are quite a few highly ranked properties that we basically put on hold because of the owner's how can I say, hesitation, and we haven't tried to approach any of these people in quite a long time. And I wondered, in some cases, we actually have new owners for these properties, and I would say I have got a half a dozen already documented history and criteria. And I wondered if we would want to just review a few of those and try to move forward with them. If the work is done, it's just a matter of doing that work with the resident and talk to them about what it means and go from there. I'm just saying, I wonder if you're interested in revisiting any of those, and I'd be glad to put together and circulate the inventory forms for those that have been already done, or at least first drafts have been done. Usually that inventory form kind of evolves as we work with a resident and, dig a little deeper into the history. But there's quite a few that were all ranked red that highly recommended to be designated that have been documented, but put on hold. So if you're interested, I can put that together, what I have, and if anyone else has any, to look at and say, okay, this looks like one we want to pursue, and just go after a couple of them, whatever we can handle, Just want to take everyone's temperature before I go ahead and dig all it up.
Do we have thoughts?
That's a great idea.
Review it here and then see what you want to do.
Sounds good. Marketing, communications, anything?
I was happy to see Jill sent out a note for May, so I think that's good. I don't think we need another note for May unless there's something else going on. I don't think there is, so that works.
Any other discussion, anything folks want to bring up?
Can I chime in for the other?
Yes.
Okay. Of course, we're doing the zoning code update, and I've been before a number of the land use boards and the village board noting that we were going to meet on the 20th, on May 20th in the village boardroom. But for zoning 101, we had quite the attendance. So in response to that, we're moving the meeting on May 20th to the cafetorium of Johanna Perrin Middle School. So it will be held there so that we have plenty of space for folks. So that'll be at 7 o'clock. We're also working on finalizing a week full of zoning code update fun. And so there will be a lot of opportunities for the public to participate and provide feedback, which will go a little bit into mid-June in terms of activities that we have planned. So look for that to be published soon. We will be finalizing that. But again, the May 20th meeting will be the first public meeting, and that will be at 7 o'clock in the cafetorium of Johanna Perrin Middle School.
That's great. Thank you. So if there is nothing else, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.